but we are required by the Brown Act that the meeting is a public meeting and that we disclose our procedure. So we had to wait to start. We have a busy agenda today. I'd like to start with the roll call, please. So Commissioner Burton.
Present.
Commissioner Newhouse.
Present.
Commissioner Orlando.
Present.
Commissioner Phillips.
Present.
And Commissioner Perlman is myself, present. Okay, with that, we're ready to move into our first agenda item, which is the approval or modification of the agenda as it stands. Can we initialize this with a motion to approve the agenda and then see if we have any discussion? Motion, please.
I'll motion to
Thank you.
approve.
Second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, any discussion on today's agenda? Then let's take a vote on accepting the agenda. Okay, Commissioner Burton.
Aye.
Commissioner Newhouse.
Aye.
Commissioner Orlando.
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
And Commissioner Perlman. We have an accepted agenda. Let's move into the approval of minutes. Minutes have been distributed and have been posted from our last meeting, which was held on Monday, July 8th. Can we begin this by having a motion to accept the minutes?
I motion that we accept the minutes.
Thank you, Lucia. A second. Thank you, Emily. Okay. Commissioner Burton.
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Newhouse.
Aye.
Commissioner Orlando.
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Perlman, yes, the minutes from last meeting are accepted. Okay. Continuing today's agenda, declaration of ex parte communications. This is the part where when people send us information, we share that with the public. So regarding item 4, we have correspondence. First item I'll bring to your attention is a small correspondence between Kevin Newhouse in a letter that he wrote on behalf of the commission concerning the condition of the Arama House, to Kristen Brown, chair of the Regional Transportation Commission, who owns the Arama House. So the shared communication with you about the condition and the preserving of the house and our attention. We want them to know we're watching. And now they know. So thank you very much, Kevin, for generating that letter on your own initiative. Very helpful.
Well, just to follow up,
Please.
this isn't the full correspondence. They, well, yeah, she gave me some contacts for people to potentially set up a meeting to go into the house and take photographs to document the current state, because they are recently new owners. And so I figure it's a good idea to get a picture of what the house looks like now, so we can continue to monitor it and see if 6 months from now, 9 months, 12, 24 months from now, if something is not taken care of, decays, broken, or is changed on their watch, we'll have photographic documentation to say this happened on your watch, not the previous owners. And nobody has done anything about the reason why I emailed in the first place. They've got open windows in a vacant house, and I'm worried about people, squatters, I'm worried about animals, I'm worried about the weather.
Oh, better yet, Matthew's experience has shown that open windows are the first sign of neglect and demolition by neglect.
Yeah.
As though they're planning it.
Yeah, I did get a reply from Sarah Christensen, who's the president, I believe, of the RTC. And she did say, you know, we apologize, we can't have someone there every day, but we try to check in as often as possible. Well, more than 2 weeks have gone by since I emailed and the window is still wide open.
And that doesn't, so, and somebody coming by, why can't they go and go in and close windows and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
And the shutters are gone.
And the shutters are gone. They removed the shutters. They've been there for at least 70 years. They add
Can you stand on the ground and pull the shutters off?
No, they're second story
So
shutters.
somebody got inside of the house and but nobody's living there.
They claim that they didn't do it. They think that it was the previous owner who did it, but I am, again, this is why I wanted to like photograph everything, but like, I'm fairly certain the RTC took ownership long before the shutters went missing. I drive by that house 3-4 times a day,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until recently that I
I
noticed
have
it.
recent photographs from July, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's, I still haven't gotten an answer as to who removed them, where they are, if they're planning on putting them back on, but it adds a ton of character to the house,
And
and
the house needs the character.
yes,
It really does.
absolutely, absolutely. So
So you'll,
I'm following
kind
it,
of stay continuing on this one
you bet,
and give us a follow-up report at the next meeting.
absolutely.
Thank you very much. And if you need any help in the interim, both Matthew and I are available.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, well, that takes care of the first item here. I have another item to share, and that is some correspondence from Becky Steinbrunner regarding the status of the Redmond Hirahara House. And a request is mentioned for a meeting with Congressman Panetta to discuss the future of the Redmond Hirahara House. We also have correspondence from me, and I'm going to get into this more as old business on the Redmond House. At this point, I am naming that we had the correspondence properly on the agenda for item 4. So there we are with, I'm sorry, item 5, public communications. Moving on to item 6, consent items. We have nothing such on our agenda. Number 7, public hearing items, also nothing on our agenda, which would lead us into item 8. Okay, and at this time, I would like to introduce Marla Novo, who is representing the Museum of Art and History, and she's our guest at the meeting. We have an annual presentation by the Museum of Art and History. They show us their historic budget and their plans for the year. And since we advise the supervisors, we're informed of that budget. And if we have any issues with it, we can discuss that with Marla. We sort of give a nod of approval every year to the budget. It's somewhat token because we'll be seeing a budget from Marla for the current year that's in operation. And that's great. What I would like to see in the future is I would like to see their budget presentation given to us before the start of the fiscal year, because that would be the only meaningful way that we could have any input to it. So for 2025, I would greatly encourage moving the MA presentation to April. But I'll need to ask a question of Marla that she can add to her presentation of whether that would be practical, whether it would be practical for you to meet us in April, or whether that's too early before you guys have a budget.
I think that's a great suggestion, and our fiscal year starts July 1st.
Right.
So it seems that we would definitely in April have at least a draft budget. It wouldn't be approved by our board of trustees, but I think the timing could work really well.
I think that it would put us in a more realistic position of being able to advise on their budget before it's in place and they're in the year of living it out. So this is where we're trying to up the level of commission participation to be meaningful. In order for us to approve something, we have to do it in a timely way. Moving the next year's presentation to April would do that. So I don't think that there needs to be any vote on it. I'm getting a sense of support from everyone in the room. Let's just go with an informal plan to add that to the budget, to add that to the agenda for the April meeting. And Marlo, you'll be able to work with the new executive director to do this plan again.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
So at this time, I would like to introduce Marla, who would like to show us the work of the mom.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me here. So this is our annual update. Is
Did you want
that okay? if I come up
to?
here?
Yeah.
Please.
I'll be reading from.
Right.
Great. Thank you. A presentation we do every year, and I know we usually do in July, and some signals got crossed, but here I am in October. Next slide, Donovan. Awesome. So I'll just give an overview of who we are. Who is the mom? Next. The Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History was founded in 1996 to promote a greater understanding of contemporary art and history of Santa Cruz County. We produce a series of rotating exhibitions and maintain a semi-permanent display in the History Gallery, which does change frequently. We host educational outreach programs. We collaborate on cultural celebrations with partners. We maintain a permanent collection of art, objects, and artifacts, manage a historical archive with multiple historic sites, and operate a vibrant public plaza on the museum's doorstep. I want to show you that 1996 coming up. We're almost going to be 30 years in 2026.
Wow.
Can't believe it. How do we preserve history? We maintain a permanent collection of regional artifacts, research library, and historical archives, and online collection guides, which incidentally are used quite a bit. We manage our historic sites, Evergreen Cemetery, Octagon Building, and Davenport Jail. We produce history publications, including books and an online journal, host thousands of K through 12 students annually who visit the MA and our historic sites to learn more about Santa Cruz County history. We offer fellowship opportunities in archives, exhibitions, and public history, as well as an annual Distinguished Historian Award. And then we have these volunteer committees that are really vibrant, and they preserve and promote local history, which include Evergreen Cemetery Committee, Historic Landmark, and publications. And then we partner with other groups and organizations, including the History Forum. Next. In addition to the tours of and exhibitions, we also host a variety of other history-related programs. Once again, the Historic Landmark Blue Plaque Awards, that's in tandem with the Historic Landmark Committee. Very popular. I think we plaqued a lot of blue plaques last year. So it is, local history is very vibrant. And our publication events, we do book talks and book launches. Last year, we published the 4th edition of the Sidewalk Companion to Santa Cruz Architecture. And in the works is another journal, History Journal number 10, Arts and Artists, and a reprint of Gathering of Voices, which is our Indigenous history.
How is that going? Has that gotten started? The History Journal?
Yes, it has. We've got lots of ideas. We've already got some people that have already committed to writing articles. So
Okay.
Lisa Robinson is our editor on that one.
She asked me to help with some of the editing,
Fantastic.
but I haven't heard anything in some time. So that's why I haven't gotten around to asking her kind of where are you on that project?
We're kind of still we're still accepting folks that want to write articles. We've narrowed down sort of the foci of it. We're having a publications meeting this week, so I'll get more information.
I had suggested Lumber.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he ended up dying crossing the highway there in Davenport, but
Wow, okay.
yeah, quite some time ago, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
But they initiated several techniques, and he was very forward thinking in his glass
Absolutely.
creativity and all.
I love Lumber Studios. Yes. I'll sort of mention that again to Lisa this week to get in touch with you. These journals, take a long time, but there is a really great, they have really narrowed it down, and now it's just kind of the go time.
Okay,
But the idea is to publish that. I shouldn't say because they always take longer than. No, by our 30th anniversary, 26. No, I probably next year.
okay.
I think it's going to be very popular.
Has Charlie Tweedle ever been included?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, yes.
Cool.
In fact, Rachel McKay, our longtime archivist at the MA, has mentioned that Charlie a bunch of times. Yeah, we have a small archive.
How about, the guitar making companies?
I'm not sure. That's a great idea. I'm not sure if that's in it or not.
I would be a reasonably effective contact for that.
That's fantastic. Let's talk later. Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah. Let's see, next slide. So our key FY '24 projects. Share a few. We had a great exhibition called Werewolf Hunters, Jungle
Hang on
Queens.
a second, go back to the Donovan, go back, that, yes, thank you, that one right there. Who is that person? Okay. I'll
A
tell you what it
founding
is.
father.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what it is. Having read Margaret Coates' book, I found out that abolitionist John Brown's son, whom you're looking at, vacated the East Coast because of the notoriety associated with the Brown family, came to the West Coast, as did John Brown's second wife, I think, ended up in Reading, and then quickly figured out the better places to live, so moved to Saratoga. But this is Jason Brown. He was a recluse in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
Oh, wow.
But he died on his way to the Northeast somewhere back in 1912, and was buried in maybe Ohio or New Jersey or something like that.
What's the dog's name?
Don't know.
I feel like it might be named Lassie,
It might be.
honestly. And I think he had a couple. Yeah.
Really?
I love that you know that.
Jason Brown.
Jason Brown, and he is on the cover of our history journal, I believe, number 8, Do You Know My Name? And it's about sort of uncovering some more different history. I love that image. It's a great one.
Very good.
Yeah, yeah.
And the dog is so,
It's,
alert, and yeah, it looks like it's smiling and laughing.
I was kind of thinking to myself, it looked like he was on LSD, which would make him a Santa Cruz kind of dog.
You know, it's funny that there is something about historical photos that have animals in them. It just, like, I have always been drawn to the animals in these historic photos.
Kevin, you're reading my mind because we're actually, this is why we need to talk ahead of time, but in next March, we're having a show called Howl, and it actually is based on our digging into our archives and seeing all these images of pets and animals.
Looking forward to
And
that.
they're in it, but there's other people too. It's so interesting, like pet chickens, of course, and a
Yeah.
parrot, lots of cats and dogs. We know Santa Cruz County loves our animals.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
We love our dogs too. So
Absolutely.
that's great. That's gonna come in March.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Looking
And
forward to
Jason's
that.
gonna be in there with, I think Lassie, I think that dog's name is Lassie.
It's interesting because I think the pets make it even more timeless because, he looks like he's of a different time period, but the dog doesn't.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, yeah. Okay, so then we had a show of historic comic books called The Lost Worlds of Women Comic Artists, and that was last year. Seems like a million years ago, or just this year. Next slide, a very popular exhibition called Sowing Seeds, Filipino American Stories from the Bajo Valley. That's with our partners at UCSC, the Humanities Institute, in collaboration with Watsonville is in the Heart. Very powerful exhibition, lots of beautiful photographs and family artifacts that were in that exhibition. I hope you got to see it. Dia de los Muertos last year at Historic Evergreen Cemetery, and we're gonna do it again this year, actually at the MA again this time around. Next slide. If you've been out to Evergreen Cemetery recently, please do. We've got more accessibility for our historic sites and guided tours, and that's a new ADA pathway, along with the kiosk that's out there that can promote MA activities and spotlight some of the folks that are buried at Evergreen Cemetery. We also did a remodel in a section of our history gallery, and we call that Concentricity Indigenous Learning Gardens. It was a project in collaboration with the Amamutsun Tribal Band. So we have a new section in collaboration with them and Martin Rizzo Martinez. We updated the history gallery as well as planted a native plant garden outside of the MA. And we celebrated,
Fantastic.
yeah, we celebrated that 2 weeks ago with Chairman Valentin Lopez, who came to bless and honor the garden. It was quite lovely. Next slide. Other special projects we are doing, one in particular, the London Nelson Legacy Initiative. In the forefront there is Luna Haijan Bay, who's done some remarkable research with a small research team to uncover not only more about the story of London Nelson, but the other Black community members that are buried at Evergreen Cemetery. In our archives, we saw that there were about 7 to 8 Black community members buried with unmarked graves at the cemetery. Through her research, she has identified over 22 folks there.
Oh, wow.
Pretty amazing
Absolutely.
things. Yeah.
Question for Marla. Is London Nelson the same thing as Loudon Nelson?
Yes, Loudon is the spelling, yes, of it. It really is London Nelson, and now the London Nelson Center has changed towards that.
Okay.
Yeah. Fun fact too, I'm going to Santa Cruz High tomorrow morning and go into their Doc Feldman archives. They have an amazing, all the graduates there, their yearbooks and documentation go back to the 1890s. We just learned that, and I think this is correct, this is what we're checking out, that the first Black person that graduated from high school happened here at Santa Cruz High in 1892. And so I'm going to go in there tomorrow. I know some people there. And go and see if I can find some documentation of that. So lots of great history,
When you say the first, you mean first in Santa Cruz, first in,
excuse me, in California.
okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't say that part. First in Santa Cruz, first in California. So this project's been really amazing. Again, we started a multi-year effort to digitize our archives, which is a long time coming. So it's amazing that we, back in the day, somebody like, do you have a picture of this? And we'd be like, yeah, I think so. And then we try to find it.
Yes.
Now it's this multi-year effort, and we just started it to digitize our whole general MOM photograph collection.
Fantastic.
This is big.
Yeah, no,
So,
it is.
yeah, we're very excited about that. And then going back to our Blue Plaque Awards, last year, there was a culmination of 9 blue plaques that were honored to the early surf shops of Santa Cruz, as well as so many other
Mhm.
structures throughout Santa Cruz County, Watsonville, up in the mountains, and the tannery is actually replaquing and getting new plaques for many of those structures there at the tannery. Next slide. So what's next, you say? Next slide. As the mall looks for new ways to strengthen its role in the community, we are pleased to report that we successfully completed year 3 of our 5-year strategic plan. We continue to focus on these 3 strategies: increase engagement and retention, deepen relationships and collaboration, build resilience and capacity. And you can read more about all of it on our website. Next slide. So here's our budget and funding breakdown from 23 to 24 and then into 24, 25.
Question, Ron?
Mhm.
This is the history budget.
That's right.
Okay, this
That's-
is not the complete budget of the MA. This is only the history side of the budget, I believe.
No,
No,
this is all of it. This is all of it. Yeah,
Okay,
So it's last year's and current year.
yeah. Our budget's a little bit lower this year. We've needed to tighten up on a few things, but not a lot.
Yeah, contributed and sub, but earned is down.
Yeah,
So what is the earned is, what does that encompass?
earned would be admissions to the MA. I believe we put in memberships in there as well.
Oh,
Yeah, we're a little low, but we're kind of revving up. We're revving up.
Yeah,
Is contributed just donations?
Yes. No, I should know that.
That would.
Yeah, contributed is like sponsorships, business sponsored.
Okay.
Yeah,
would that also be County of Santa Cruz funding within that?
if we
contributed
go
revenue?
to the next slide, we can see that.
Okay,
So see where, and it's really a mirror last year's into this year.
and is that a separate item from the prior page's item, or is that part of the
it's part of that. I should have asked Hans, our finance person, who put these together for me.
Okay, could we go back to the
Sure.
last slide for a moment? Okay, so the county is contributing about half
Yeah,
of the,
Half of what?
10%.
of the contributed revenue, about 50% of that.
No,
Would that be like
No.
10%?
10%.
more like,
Oh, 100, I see. Okay, that's not the same. I see. That's strange.
well, all of the county, money, much of this county money, again, is all about what we do history, which is maintaining these sites, which is huge.
Mhm.
Evergreen Cemetery, the storms happen and 4 trees fall down. We've got to figure out a way to do that.
Yeah.
It's a continual upkeep. Davenport Jail, love it, had a huge mold problem last winter. And, yeah.
And then the roof.
And then the roof, and then it rains, and then we sandbag it. So there is a lot of upkeep with these, I mean, they're precious, right?
Yes.
Historical sites, but there is a considerable amount of upkeep, as is the Octagon and, part of Babbitt Square too.
well, I have a question for you regarding the cemetery. When a tree or trees fall down in winter storms, is it that you pay somebody to go in there and take out the,
Sometimes we do, or sometimes we rely on our staff member, Kevin Houlihan, who is our facilities manager, and he'll go out with some dedicated evergreen volunteers who are amazingly dedicated. So they'll go out with a chainsaw and break it all down, maybe 3 of them. But there's some things that, we need to pay people to do.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of upkeep, yeah. And there was also something with the water bill up at Davenport Jail and electricity. The good news is, I believe that these sites have been utilized more than they ever have before. And honestly, under Rob Wolf's direction, we've been doing more performative arts out in Evergreen Cemetery, besides the school tours that are off the charts, and people love going to Evergreen Cemetery. There's more engagement out there as far as performative arts and music. We just had some amazing projections out there.
I saw pictures of that. That was really cool.
They were so great.
I wish I knew about it ahead of time.
I know, a lot of people said that, like, we did some
Yeah.
marketing, but I wish there was more. I think we're gonna try to bring him back.
Yeah.
It was 3 projections, and one of them was George Al's face
Yeah.
to honor the Chinese folks that are buried at Evergreen, so.
So since I've been on this commission, you've had 3 executive directors. And each one is a different personality. Each one had different perspectives and focus. So, and you've worked under all 3 of them.
Right.
Maybe more.
Yes.
And so, in my mind, it seems like that will give you a very, some great ideas. What works, what doesn't, what is bringing in the most bang for the buck,
Right.
and that kind of thing. So as you move forward, especially with the new executive director, if it's not you, to be able to focus and know, how to reach your goals there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, and I really do think it is utilizing these historic sites. And also Santa Cruz County, we love our history. We love all of it. And we've noticed that
Absolutely.
with the exhibitions that we produce, like Sowing Seeds, very much, Watsonville, Pajaro, history of Filipino, and it was a very well-attended exhibition. Moving out into 2025, we're going to do another big surf exhibition in July for the 140th anniversary of the Princess of Surf coming to Santa Cruz and introducing surfing to the mainland with some new stories, some other local stories, and really then how that then sort of, exploded this whole of us being surf
Morphed
city.
into the
Yes.
blue plaques for the surf shop.
Exactly, and they're going to be in that show too.
Very nice.
But I know I'm going off a little bit of topic here, but I am on the search committee of the Mott's executive director, and really, it's history. Love art. I mean, I have a background in art. I have a background in both art and history, but really, I feel like what's relevant to this town is really history. We're really curious
It
about
seems like history is kind of coming up.
I think it's having a renaissance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, because it seemed like, art for a while was
Yeah,
more the focus and history was kind of there.
right.
But it seems like the history now is coming up and getting more attention, more in the spotlight.
I
Well,
think so too.
I believe so, and part of this is our current community climate. Newer organizations like Santa Cruz Black
Right,
are doing very interesting historic investigations. They have a project going where they're looking at deeds that exclude Black people from purchasing the properties, and they're trying to get those deeds legal here in the county records. Actually go back and change 100-year-old deeds.
And those deeds could be still enforced.
Well, they
No,
can't be
there's a state
enforced,
law.
but they're a pretty bad black eye,
Mhm.
and it's one we should get rid of. So it's trying to use that view of how do we project from our current knowledge, a more accurate view of the world. So, yeah, it's very interesting. I have a question, and that is that the Octagon is a revenue-bearing location for you. You have two tenants there, right? The two restaurant operators. Where do they pay rent to the mom?
They're Abbott Square in all the restaurants, that's our, they pay, yes, they do pay to us. They're our master tenant. There's one person that oversees all of it.
Yes,
And so, yes,
Abbott Square is the master tenant,
yes,
and so that is part of the Abbott Square complex.
correct.
So indirectly, the revenues does come
Yes,
in. Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Can I ask about the admin facility? It seems like a significant drop.
yes. I think that with that is, we invested a lot in some improvements in the building. The building's almost 30 years old. And elevators are breaking, and even in the county, in the McPherson building and all of that. And I think just being realistic in our projections, we're not going to be able to do that as much. But there have been a lot of improvements during COVID as far as our building, which is 30 years old, and part of the McPherson building as well.
Okay.
Always, I mean, it's always there. I had mentioned that to Hans too, but I think that's a realistic snapshot. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
And just to clarify from, I think, maybe your first presentation, the money from the county,
Yes,
that goes into a pot. It's to do the goals and.
it is. Yeah,
And strategies for the mall.
yes,
You don't designate it as, okay, we get 157,000, so 25,000 of that is earmarked for Evergreen. And 50,000 of that is earmarked for our history exhibits. It isn't like that. It's put in the pot
correct.
and then it goes back out.
Correct. It's not a restricted fund, but,
Okay.
but honestly, but I will say most of it is for the maintenance of those
Okay.
historic sites. Absolutely.
I-
And the archives too. But no, a great question. Yeah, it's not restricted.
Can we see the next slide again?
Okay, into the contract.
How often is the Davenport jail open to?
So we just had it open for about 10 days straight with an artist that did a projection in there and some programming.
Okay.
It's not open, your wonderful mother, open
Yeah.
all the time
Yeah.
during the summer and,
On weekends.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
But I think it's probably volunteer dependent.
exactly.
okay.
Although we do have a new connection with somebody that lives right next door to the
Oh,
jail. And she's
good.
maybe taking on Alberta's
Good.
legacy.
Oh, fantastic.
Cool.
Very interested in helping us maintain it. She actually even planted some native plants out there.
It looks great. I rode my bike up there the other day and I stopped there for a little break and took a look and I thought it's beautiful.
Oh, good.
You guys
Thank
have done a
you.
great
Yeah.
job of it, yeah.
We're really trying. But we do, that's the idea, is to have it open like Alberta used to do it and have it open a few weekends during the spring into summer.
Yeah.
Maybe a little fall, like right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so well loved. I I mean, every time we open it just to go in and clean it or something, people just come in. Isn't it interesting? Stop, and there's so many people in Davenport. But it would be very great to like keep doing things like that, like opening it up, but I can imagine that being an artist residency that works with some historical issues. And this, we've been prototyping doing certain other things out there. And this last time it was a Davenport artist that did a projection, and it was about grief in Wales, and it kind of really tied into the Davenport jail, and it was really well received.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it's nice to work with a local artist as well.
For sure. Yeah. And then there was a walking tour. Does that still, the brochure still get?
Yes, it does. Yep, yep.
In order to keep our agenda moving forward, let's try to continue and complete the presentation.
Thank you.
Good timing.
Yeah, we'll just keep you
Excellent.
updated on everything, and yeah, and I think right now, we always want to uplift the voices from the past, learn these new stories that haven't had a voice. And I think, like I said before, I think this town really loves history, and there are lots of people out here that want to support it. So that's my work right now, is really re-engaging some folks that maybe have dropped off, bringing them back into the mothfold and sharing all this wonderful history.
Excellent, thank
Thank
you.
you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Does anyone have any questions of Marla? We appreciate having you visit us. We appreciate our partnership,
Thank you.
and let's keep going.
Thank you. We're very grateful on behalf of the mom.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marla.
Okay, and that closes new business item A. For item B, CLG grant application results, I'm going to call upon Matthew to report to us. But Matthew, before you give us the results, would you give us a moment's background on the application and the goal?
Sure. Well, CLG is certified local government. It's part of the Office of Historic Preservation protocols. When you're certified local government, you get certain benefits from the OHP, Office of Historic Preservation. It gives you an opportunity to apply for grants. So I applied for a grant to update the historic contact statement that we have, that was started in 1992 and finalized in 1994. So it's 30 years old. It needs to be updated. And a historic contact statement is basically an overview of the county's history. That's saying the least. So I applied for the grant. It's a $40,000 grant. I was notified a couple of weeks ago that yes, it's official. Santa Cruz County gets the $40,000.
Very cool.
And we don't have the formal paperwork yet, but what I have to do, once we get the formal paperwork, I go to the board of supervisors and I get them to approve the use of the funds. It wasn't until after I submitted the CLG grant application that I realized, or that I became aware of a process I had to go through with the board of supervisors. I'm supposed to get permission from the board of supervisors to apply for the CLG grant.
Because of the matching funds element?
No matching funds necessarily.
Okay, cool.
They just want to know who's doing what, where funds are coming from and whatnot. And so I missed that step, but I'll get the second part, which is to go to them and ratify the grant application and yes, accept the funds and spend it according to the OHP protocols. So there you have it. We have until I think April 2026 or May 2026 to use the funds and update our historic contact statement. Good work.
Yeah.
That's great, thank you.
Great,
Yeah, it's
great
excellent
job.
accomplishment.
Thank you.
Excellent accomplishment. It shows you're bringing your professional background and experience to the table here in this job, and really contributes hugely.
It also contributes hugely to my workload.
My next question, out of a combination of respect and a little theater. Who does the work on this historic context?
It's going to be largely a consultant driven.
So we would hire a consulting
Yeah.
firm like a Dudek
Yeah.
or someone.
Yeah. And I have to get as much bang out of the buck as possible. And if I fall short of what I want to get to, then my time or any of your time can potentially be put into it. Or we kick it out another cycle and apply for another grant amount to finish it up. But I really don't want it to drag out beyond 2026.
Right.
30 years is enough. 32 years by the time.
Very, very good. That's a terrific accomplishment, and it is an empowerment, and it helps the supervisors recognize the importance of the HRC. So I think that you accomplished several things in one sweep, and thank you for that. Let's move to item C. And again, because of the nature of the item, I'll be calling upon Matthew to make the presentation. And the name of item C is there wiggle room? And the answer is, of course we will. So I don't mean to steal his thunder. but-
Basically, that's it.
Yeah.
And if we're stuck between a rock and a hard spot and we don't have anybody who wants to be the chair or the vice chair, then those who are chair or vice chair, if they're willing to continue in that position, so that's how.
Now, that's how we are currently operating. Okay, so first, may I point out to you that we have a handout sheet for item 8C. And the handout sheet is essentially the county code that addresses the officers of advisory commission. Now, let me recap on this so that it gets into the minutes, so that it makes sense for anybody that might review this. Historically, the HRC has ignored these elements, basically paid no attention. Linda, who is the prior chair of the commission, was chairman for, I believe, over 10 years. Is that right? Something like that?
Something, it was
Something like
quite a
that.
while.
Yeah, quite a while. I was the next new commissioner and was asked to be Linda's vice chair and then ascend the following year as chairman. I have done that. This is now my third year of chairmanship. When Matthew joined, he had a learning curve to go over Santa Cruz County Code and learn how we do business here in the county. And he discovered these items as documented in item 8C. Our prior staffer, Annie Murphy, must have been unaware of these because it was never an item of discussion. So we have to make it more than an item of discussion. I will not be continuing as chair in 2025. Okay, I'm going to force the issue. I'm going to resign as chair for 2025, and we must elect a new chair. It can be neither Linda nor I. We must take off at least 1 year each. So in the overall effort to improve our operations, this is something that we should be doing. Now, I'd like to step back and address this for a minute. It's the supervisors who are not aware of these regulations, because the supervisors, when acquiring commissioners, are not telling the commissioners what the spectrum of requirements will be to be a commissioner. This exists for every commission. And no supervisors are informing an oncoming commissioner that that person will be an officer. Okay, commission terms are 4-year terms. Most commissions have 5 people. Everybody gets to be an officer. So I'm not worried about any other commissions. I'm just naming it, is that I don't care how they're operating. As chair, I wish to help us get back on track. So I'm going to suggest today that we need to consider this item between now and our April meeting and resolve it quietly and be able to move forward next April.
So we'll vote in April.
So we'll vote in April. It is part of county code is that new officers are elected for every commission, every April meeting.
So to get back to the wiggle room is that we're not
We
compliant.
have
right
wiggle,
now.
like we've been wiggling for a long
All right, but moving forward, we won't be wiggling? Is that what you're saying?
Ideally.
Unless we hit the wall.
Okay,
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to get at is that reference to wiggle room is in a scenario where nobody wants to take responsibility or step forward to be the chair and vice chair. And basically you go to status quo, and that's the wiggle room I'm talking about. The board is not gonna say, okay, dissolve the Historical Resources Commission if you can't meet this objective. They're not gonna say that. They're not gonna say, go away.
However, there's a very obscure consideration, but there is a possibility that we could take an action like declassifying a building. Okay, and it could be said that that action is not a legal action because our commission is breaking part of its mandate and part of the ordinance. So there potentially is room. Wiggle room can be a positive and can be a negative. There's wiggle room that we could be sued, that the county could be sued. And that each of us as individuals could be sued. But that's pretty obscure. But point is, I would encourage everybody to consider this, have one-on-one offline conversations about it. And let's see if we can move forward with new officers for April.
Yeah. I think it's ideal, and I think the ideal scenario is that there is a change in the guard, but everybody stays at the table. And Barry and Linda would support as best you can the new officers come April.
Mhm.
So there's a seamless, painless process. And then if you want to get back into it again a year later, then you have that option.
It's really fun being chairman. Thank you very much. Let's move on to item 8D. And again, this is a reflection of a great deal of the work that Matthew is in the midst of. So I will ask him, you have a handout for item 8D. It's very articulate.
So I
And
took
very
it out,
important.
yeah, I took it out of the general plan.
One question, what does ARC mean?
Where are we?
Objective ARC,
Oh.
8.2.
Archaeological. I don't know why they call it that, but ARC is the nomenclature used by the county. So if you go to the second page of this 8B, you'll see highlight and the bold-faced and underline. And that's the part that I want to emphasize. Consider adoption of the Mills Act is ARC 8.2I. And then 8.2J is inventory county-owned properties of historic significance and develop plans for the protection, restoration, blah, blah, blah. Well, we've already done that, but we need to continue to do that. And this is specific to county-owned properties. And county is that Regional Transportation Commission, against the Richard. So that includes the Rice and the Rhino. 8.2K, where possible, provide incentives to property owners.
Wait, yeah, I don't know about, excuse me, just going back to the,
8.2J.
yeah, 82J. The RTC is not part of county government. They're independent from county government. They're an independent agency, and I'm not sure how they're tied into state government. But they're separate of county government.
They would be tied into state government like Alaska was tied into state government. They were probably allowed to exist through state mandate, state legislation, as are counties and cities.
And every one of our supervisors is a member of the Regional Transportation Commission.
Yeah,
Uh,
so that's interesting. It's probably a very fuzzy.
Yeah, it's an offshoot
Right.
of the county, but it's not part of county government.
I have a question about J.
Mhm.
It's the inventory county-owned properties of historic significance and develop plans for their protection, restoration, and adaptive reuse. And they've got parks, open space, and cultural
So
resources.
this is very interesting.
Responsibility by Community Development and Infrastructure Department, that's CDID.
Yeah,
And then the Parks Department would have some say in it.
why? I mean,
Because
inven-
it's county-owned properties, and then the Parks Department have.
okay, so, when it says historic significance, I think of our inventory.
I'm with you.
And yet we're not listed on here. So what sounds like what you're saying is there's some kind of an overlap.
What do you mean we're not listed on there? Who's not listed on?
Historic Resources
No,
Commission.
no, okay, because we don't own property. And I think Open Space Department or Parks Department has property.
Okay, so so J is only county-owned properties.
That's what I'm reading.
But it brings up something very important. Item J is an interesting item. When we go back a couple of meetings to the issue of the covered bridge,
Who owns it?
it's in a county park.
There you go.
It's part of the county park.
So, and it's already in our inventory.
And it's in our inventory too.
But we do have the right to work with them on the protection, restoration, and adaptive use.
Sure.
We had voted that it was none of our business because only the bridge was the historic element and the rest of the park was not historic. But in order to protect the bridge, we do have the right, if we wanted, we do have the right to issue a statement of
And
position.
the bridge had been damaged a few years back during storms. And so it was trying to get similar or original redwood from Big Creek to try and do the repairs to it.
Yes,
And that came before the commission. And so we were involved with that. But
I don't know why HRC is on there, and if I were to reverse the whole process and redo the general plan, I think responsibility should include HRC. But we are a subsidiary of CDI,
exactly.
so
okay,
we're not called out by acronym. We're called out through the CDID.
But next time that there is an issue of any historic structure within a park,
Yeah,
we do have the ability to
Right.
stand on it.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just because you don't see it here doesn't mean there's a firewall between us and
okay.
the old wood bridge. So then we go to 82K, talk about how to foster historic preservation, maintain and consider revising county zoning regulations to include allowances for facade easements, favorable tax assessments such as taxing at pre-habilitation values, parking reductions, transfer of development rights, expanded and greater flexibility for uses allowed, density bonuses, blah, 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 blah. 82K ties, in my opinion, 82K ties into 8.2.
Yeah, yeah,
Because the mill tax
Absolutely.
is a favorable tax assessment issue. So there you have it. That's all I needed to say about item 8B, and that we have all these policies and strategies. Is there any other category? Yeah, policies and strategies, and then I highlighted the ones that speak to me the most at this point. But, I'm very interested in Mills Act, I don't know the extent of county administration's interest in the Mills Act, but time will tell.
Well, I think that the responsible position of the Historic Resources Commission would be to support anything that favors the preservation of the buildings. So we're sort of automatically pro-Mills Act kind of folks. And, we don't have to take a formal position on it right now because it's not on the table as an agenda item. But I have been told that the county is in a recessive budget for a 3-year plan. We're in the second of those 3 years of the plan right now. And they've capped funding for a lot of new things. So we're kind of deferring this for a while, but keeping a strong eye on it. Thank you for that. Any other comments on item 8D?
I just appreciate that because I did not know this existed, and seeing the HRC on several of these makes me glad that the county planning department sees that we are very valuable and we should be a partner in doing a lot of these county, involved in the strategies here and the preservation.
Yeah, it makes me question how familiar the CDID is with this very document, because they've reduced us from 4 to 3 meetings. And we seem to be quite important, according to this document. We're an integral part of county operations, and you'd question why we'd be less than quarterly meetings. So I will suggest that this tool will help us in the future. And can I kind of give this to departmental management?
It's public record.
Yeah, I get it. Just joking. All right, thank you very much. Very meaningful to our overall
I
guidelines.
will bring you up to date on Mills Act and demolition by neglect under item 11.
Grant.
8E.
Okay, yes,
That's me, yeah.
radio.
And I just wanted you to see how the county budget operated, and I hope you were able to open up that link and see what it looks like. Again,
It's thin, but I have to say, I appreciate all the work that went into making it understandable. And that website, the links, that-
oh,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, they did a really nice job of distilling it down. to
they
some
did. It was
elements.
very user friendly.
That's the new work that I've done just recently. Yes?
I don't know when they created, they do it every year, they update the budget, but the way it's presented, I don't know how long it's been working like that. It's very easy to absorb.
Mhm.
But after I saw that, with tax dollars at work, I was wondering, Santa Cruz is somewhat unique, I think, in that, it's a sizable population, there's a lot of tourism going on. I'm differentiating the cities from the county. So the source of funding for county operations is very lean. So we have X amount of dollars coming in as income. And then if you look at the county's geography, steep hills, roads cut on steep hills, and how much money it takes to maintain that stuff. And then you come in every few years with a monstrous, what they call the big events, the atmospheric rivers come through and
Yeah.
blast everything to kingdom come. Then we can piggyback off of FEMA. Whether or not they're gonna pay us back is another question. But on normal year to year operations to maintain these roads, it's extremely expensive. And you compare it to, let's say, Monterey County, our area, nearest equivalent to what you have here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, maybe even the Summit area, our nearest equivalent is Big Sur. But we don't have the population in Big Sur. We don't have the roads, the miles of roads in Big Sur. So our county's responsibility for upkeep of roads in Big Sur is puny compared to Santa Cruz County. And we don't have the population in the Big Sur. So you can see how a budget for Santa Cruz County gets eaten up quickly by heavy rains.
No, I know living up in the valley, the road maintenance, the tree cutting, everything that they do, it's year round,
Sure.
it's year round.
That's the county's tax base, and the
Mhm.
county does its best to get money out of Sacramento.
13 cents on the buck.
That is that's what we get, right?
From property taxes.
Right,
Yeah, because I think I sent you that email.
yeah. And apparently, the reason it's so low as compared to other jurisdictions has to do with the way the county operated decades ago. Because county somehow, I didn't quite understand the full conversation, but the way the county spent money decades ago, the county was very conservative. And because of that, that translated to this 13 cents on the dollar return. Whereas you can go to another county, they might be getting 20 or 25 or 30 cents.
Or a lot more.
Because they had a different formula that applied to them.
Santa Clara County gets a lot more back.
Yeah.
Right.
If the supervisors are ever interested in changing that, and I don't know how you would.
I don't know if you can.
Yeah,
But
I don't
supervisor
either.
level, I mean, I think the final decision would be up in Sacramento. It would take the board to push the issue. And if I were on the board, I would certainly be pushing the issue. And they may be, I can't say that they're not doing it. They might in fact be trying to get Sacramento to turn around. Okay, so that's my 8D.
Very good. I believe that we've covered all the items of new business at this time. That seem right to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Let's move into old business. And essentially, we have a report on the Redmond House I'm about to deliver, and then the rest of our meeting will be going over goals. So we've caught up with ourselves, and that's pretty good. Okay, Redmond House. To refresh, at our July meeting, we concluded and voted unanimously to request a county building inspection of the Redmond House. I was mandated by the commission to write a letter to Matt Machado, Department Head of CDID, because that's where the inspection would come from. So there is, I believe, a copy. Oh, let's see. No, that letter isn't relevant there. It's in the minutes, but we don't need to present it. What I want to go over with you right now is first, yes. On item 4, when we were going over correspondence, I presented a letter from Becky Steinman that was some questions about the Redmond era Heart House. It questioned the current ownership and the intentions for the future. Okay, you have that letter dated July 29th from Ms. Steinbrenner in your package. And to follow up with it, I contacted Matthew. Matthew checked the records, and in fact, the Tutt family estate does continue to own the Redmond House. There has not been a recent sale of it. There was a transfer of it from one of their financial entities to a different one of their financial entities, like one LLC sold it to another LLC that they own both of. But it has not been transferred to a new party or owner. Driscoll's and Miles Ryder have not purchased the Redmond House at this time. I also think that it would be premature to attend a meeting with Congressman Panetta regarding the future of the Redmond House. Anything before a inspection is ridiculous, because the inspection, as we determined, is the next step required to make any further decisions. So it got hung up for a bit. We're trying to get an inspector out there. And there's some question of what level of inspection can be delivered by the county. There are different inspectors that are certified to do different levels of work. So in terms of this building, the response we got back from an admin in the CDID was that at best, they could do a safety inspection. Okay, I'll take it. That's a step one that we need to get done. So we'll say any inspection is better than no inspection. So Matthew and I are willing to accompany the inspector, meet him there. We're going to push forward now to get the building inspected. Once we have an inspection document in our hands, we can begin depending on the results of the inspection. If the building is to be demolished, having the inspection is the first step on getting the building delisted from the register so that it can't be demolished. So we're just sort of in the thick of protocol on the Redmond House right now.
And this protocol, this process you're speaking of, we do have it in minutes from last meeting. It's County Code Section 1642-060B1A. First step, just like you say, get the inspection done. And then we take the next step, which is to decertify. It's a bitter pill to swallow.
It's a bitter pill, and there are concerns, there's a lot of emotion, and there's an unknown set of costs. And when you put those three factors together, it's something people would rather ignore than face into. However, in our role as the HRC, we can't ignore the Redmond House. It comes up in every single session because it is the most significant obsolete historic property in the county.
What is family developers, what is their stance on it? Would they like to see it demolished?
Oh, yes,
They do.
yes, they would, but they have this.
And they're willing to foot the bill since it's their property?
I have indications from having met with Susie Marion, who knows them well.
Mhm.
She thinks that they are cooperative. They are not the problem.
Yeah,
Okay, but it's getting them to initialize the process and take it on and move from passive to active.
Mhm.
That's what we're in the midst of doing.
They can't do anything until we do our homework. They can't do anything until this inspection.
They
occurs.
couldn't tear it down
They can't.
until we have our
They
Oh,
can't do
yeah, yeah.
anything Until we do.
So this is the turning point. This is that left turn,
yeah.
that now we're going down the right road.
I was just curious because if they didn't want to demolish it, then we can't force
We
them.
can't force them, but we will have done everything that is required up to that point.
Yeah,
And that point being, burn it down with the fire department, or
Yeah.
send a salvager out of Berkeley to come down and tear the building apart and salvage the
yeah,
2x4s, and the 4x6s, and the 8x10s,
yeah.
which I would love to do. Maybe imagine the wood in that place.
Lumber is the only thing left.
The red.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get the inspection and go from there.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's a bitter pill. Our local civilization has been looking at this thing rotting away for decades.
Yeah.
And I'm of the mind that if we had Mills Act, there would have been a more positive direction towards rehabilitation if we had Mills Act. No guarantee, but I think I'm pretty on.
The history of the sales and of the building might have been different if there was a Mills Act. It would appeal to different people for different reasons. But what we have now is a building that appears to us to be well beyond Mills Act level saving.
Oh, yeah.
So having visited the property many times, to go there is to understand. And people that tell me that they go there and deeply believe it can be saved, I can't agree with that because
It's too far down the road.
it's too far down the road, you know? And the
Yeah, maybe 20 years
definition,
ago.
the
but not today.
definition of what is a standing building is something that is not within the purview of the HRC. That's in the purview of an inspector. Okay, so we have had citizens telling us that the Hirahara barn is standing. Not in my opinion. I don't think that building is standing. I think that building is demolished. Okay, but I'm not an inspector.
And the thing that maybe some people, I mean, I wasn't here then, but some decades ago, there was a very strong and active group trying to save the house and put up big banners in
Yes.
front and
It was.
fundraising and all. So it wasn't like nobody really wanted it. They did really try and they couldn't do it.
There
And
was
you
a
have
huge
to
effort.
wonder, when it was in much better condition, you had a very active local group trying to save it, trying to restore it, and they couldn't do it.
They couldn't raise the money.
So here we are decades later, and why would you think you could do it now? When you don't have that, swell of interest and dedication and motivation.
People have a hard time coming to reality about these things, and it's like, everyone wants to save it, but it's like, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, oh, no, that's up to someone else, but it's like,
To
it can't be
restore it,
saved,
it would
like,
be
yeah.
probably in the millions, and then you have to maintain it every year, that would be another $150,000 a year, because, paint starts to go south
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Mhm.
And over the last 19 years, since they abandoned the restoration effort around 2005, and I believe that was led by Professor Rob Edwards from Cabrillo College, really distinguished guy. And a noble effort was made by a very sincere group of people, but they just couldn't put together the money. They were like $1.5 million short, from what I understand.
And everything's been stripped out of the inside.
Since then, everything has been stolen
Banisters,
from the building.
anything that could.
Handrails, banisters, steps, wainscoting, all gone.
I mean, I think it's, a lot of people feel, I can't speak for everyone at this table, but I feel like we're all on the same page, where it's gonna break my heart to see it go down, but there's nothing we can do.
It was a symbol of a very specific time and events
Yeah,
in this county's history.
yeah.
So I have a symbol,
Let's, if it comes to that, we'll just have to be prepared to handle a lot of
it's
emails.
also a symbol, to some extent, it's a symbol of failure.
It is a symbol, and a symbol of an end of an era. And let's look at the two largest cities in our county, city of Santa Cruz and the city of Watsonville. Both cities are going through enormous growth and enormous change.
Mhm.
And the entire visual profile of both cities is radically changing. But somehow we want to keep this image of this nasty old building intact while the rest of the world around it changes. But we're not going to put any money into saving it, but we want it saved. So If you look at it in terms of the context of what's happening in the county of Santa Cruz, the proper thing to do would be to get rid of the eyesore and the danger of the Redmond House. And it's towards that purpose that, that is not our mandate. Our mandate is to resolve its status. I suggest that status is probably demolition. The inspection will lead the charge in one direction or the other direction.
They own the Tut family, they own the hotel behind it, correct?
Yes, they do.
Well, maybe they can put up some sort of display.
They've also, they've got the beginnings of that little shopping center,
Yeah.
and they want to expand it. And right now, you don't see it from the highway because it's behind the Redmond House. So it would be to their advantage. They would have a better visual view of their hotel and of their shopping area. More people would get off the highway to get a cup of espresso at the Starbucks that's in the shopping area. But they don't see that it's a Starbucks because it's behind the Redmond House.
Yeah.
So a lot of this is unspoken because frankly, people don't want to say unpopular things. Okay, I believe that's a complete report. The Redmond House will probably continue as an agenda item under old business until it's resolved, but for now, we've completed our discussion. Okay, it's 11:05, but we have a late start to the meeting. We would normally take a break right now. I'm going to ask you if we can push through our break and try to complete our goals. What say, good?
I'm okay.
Okay, Grant, I want to be recognizing everybody's time and space. Linda, you're our goals meister, mistress, maven, person,
Diva.
or devo.
Devo.
So, a couple words before we begin. In my mind, what I had wanted to do, and I think I've mentioned this maybe last year or whatever, that every January I wanted to go through all of the goals to refresh everybody's mind with what goals are still outstanding, to see if they had any questions or comments. We don't have a January meeting anymore. So we didn't do that this year. So that's why we're going to be going through all of them, but not all of them are going to be going in depth. There really isn't any activity on them. And then I would like to do it again at the April meeting, which is our first meeting of the year, but do it in 2026. Since this is April 2024. So that's why you've got more goals than what we looked at the July meeting.
Linda, would you call this a master goals list? Just a master.
Of the outstanding goals. These are all of our outstanding goals.
Fantastic. I would suggest to everybody that this very document is very important to be kept in front place of your file and good reference points.
That's right, and on your kitchen door. For refrigerator.
So, our goal number 1 is a training opportunity list. And this is a perpetual goal, since we do have money allocated for training and we try to keep refreshing ourselves, like with the Brown Act webinar that was just here, and with new opportunities to learn new things. So from the last meeting, I know you had, that our Matthew had suggested some of the webinars. And I believe the hope would be for next year, if is it the California Preservation Conference that they have every year, that we would maybe be able to go up for a day. So,
It's in April, I believe.
because we didn't get to it this year.
As I recall, we have $1,200 in our budget.
I think that's correct.
So, so anyway, that was one of the things. And you were gonna talk to the Santa Cruz City Preservation, what is it called? City Preservation Council for possible maybe joint training.
Yes, I have, that's a good point. I've made 2 connections over the last few months about that, and it's time for a 3rd one.
Okay. So at this point then, at the April meeting, you might have more to report.
Or between now and then.
Okay.
Regarding training, something came up recently. There were some September seminars that were offered by the Preservation Foundation. And I was gonna take them, but we'd be dipping into the beginning of our $1,200 budget. And Matthew and I were in the midst of discussing the fact that it looked like the county was gonna ask us to pay for the Redmond House inspection. That in fact, who's gonna cover that expense that the county incurs? And so we talked about the consideration that should we use our budget money for something that is the very most important thing we want to get done, which would be the inspection of the Redmond House. So being that that was up in the air, I decided not to spend money on training and did not take the webinar, which I think there was, cost was $200 or something like that. In order to just keep the funds available in the very short term, just in case. Now, that was before we got the CLG grant. So I'm not sure that having the grant, that we couldn't pay for the inspection out of the grant.
Well, the grant is earmarked.
Yeah, no, you
Yeah.
can't.
It's just for the contest.
Yeah.
Now, what I would ask, because you're talking about training funds? Because we have training funds and consultation funds.
We have
That'd be
$1,200, you can call it anything.
Well, I thought they were earmarked, that there was so much for training.
In earlier years, it was earmarked.
I don't think so.
Now it's a pot?
Yeah, it's a pot.
Oh, okay,
We can
because
find
before it was
$1,200.
separated.
Yeah.
Okay,
And it was more money. It used to be more money. I think it was 2,000.
yeah,
And
it
things
was.
cost less when we had them.
Yeah.
So,
So, just,
so if that, say that comes up in February and we haven't had another meeting yet, and our funds, you want to take some of our funds, say it's $500 for the inspection, then would you send an email to us and ask us to maybe do a verbal vote to approve the spending of the funds for that? How would that work? Because that's out of our normal usage.
Yeah, I wonder if there'd have to be a public hearing on something like that.
I know that I don't want to say a phone voting, but there was a way.
It wouldn't be that, it would be a public hearing, which means a special meeting, which means, 72 hours in advance. I don't think it would be an emergency meeting, which would be less.
Right.
Correct. It would be 72-hour notice advance to the public that you guys are going to meet and vote on that particular subject. It's just one agenda item,
Mhm.
and that's it.
Would we need?
But I don't know,
certain?
I don't know if that's required or not.
That,
No, what I mean is, I don't know if do I have to get your permission as a board to spend money on, okay, I'll have to research that.
Would we need an in-person quorum for a special meeting? Or can we do it through Zoom?
No, you can't, we can no longer do a meeting through Zoom exclusively.
That's right.
And that he changed about 8 months ago. or a
This
year
is the
ago,
format
changed
right here.
Yeah,
Public has access to you right now.
yeah.
And this is the format that we have to do. In person and Zoom as an option.
So if we call a special meeting, we would need at least in-person quorum.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure to expend $500 or $1,200, this would have to be a meeting and a short one item agenda and 72-hour notice going out.
Yeah, I don't know, and you can check on that and see what,
Friends,
Yeah,
may I call for a motion to give Matthew the authority to spend our funds as needed for the inspection of the Redmond House if it comes up before our next regular meeting.
Can we do that if it's not on
If
the
we-
agenda?
I think the way I posed it, we can give him the authority to spend it if he needs to, and then he can do it or not do it, and it's then report on it at the next meeting that he did what we just voted on.
But can we even bring that up today, since that's not technically on the agenda for the public to weigh in on? Or does that even matter?
well, that's it's a very good point.
It's a good point.
And I'm uncertain about that, but I can say that you do that, and then I put it in my back pocket.
Yes, that's the idea. That's the
If
idea.
it's legal, then I take it out of my back pocket and I make it go to work.
And if it's not legal, he reports to us at next meeting that what we did wasn't legal.
Okay.
well, I think we're okay since on your report, we did discuss the inspection.
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
how much money in our budget do we have?
12.
1,200. So do we need to put a cap? Should we tell him he can, if he needs to, spend our entire budget on an
Or
inspection?
should we contribute a fixed amount towards the inspection
That's
as our gesture?
as a
Okay.
cap of so much money.
$600? We're giving half our
Sure.
budget.
Yeah. Might as
That-
well, because I don't know, no idea what is safety. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how much it's gonna cost.
right.
See, now, it's hard because what if we approve you for 600 and he comes back and says, oh yeah, I can do it for 700? It's just like,
Well, the county.
Well, the county will pay the $100.
County pays it, whatever.
they'll pay it.
I think for us to say that we're willing to put half of our budget
Uh-huh.
towards that inspection makes a statement that it's a priority and that we are participating.
Okay, I wasn't aware that the county would kick in on this. I thought we just had to work within our
I'm not
budget.
guaranteeing it. but-
Right. Okay. Well, I'll make that motion.
So the motion is we are
We are,
approving,
I make the motion to give Matthew the
Authority.
authority to spend up to half of our budget or $600 towards the safety inspection of the Redmond House at his discretion
as needed.
as needed.
And if allowed by Brown Act.
Yes.
you know,
I
we're
second the
talking
motion.
about goals and we're talking about training. I'm wondering if this motion, when you put the minutes together, should be back one agenda item to the Redmond House.
Yeah, we kind of got sidetracked on what we were
Yeah,
talking.
because I'm
about.
writing here and it's like, what do I put it against? It's not the conference.
Well, why don't we do it under 9A?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. So that motion goes against 9A.
So there's 9A1 and there's 9A2.
Correct.
According to my notes.
Correct.
And we got a second
Mhm.
from Lucia.
Okay, any discussion required? Let's call for a vote. Commissioner Burton? Newhouse?
Aye.
Orlando?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
And Perlman, aye.
Okay,
Unanimously good. Thank you for that, folks. We just did something that we just helped ourselves. Good, thank you. Linda, please continue.
so going back, so for the conference next year, will you let us know, and when that conference, I guess, will be, and
Yeah, once typically I get notification from Office of Historic Preservation about coming events. And I just
Okay.
send them out to you guys,
okay,
figuring that if you have time and inclination and the money and you want to take off for a day or two and do something, do it. As you know, $1,200 doesn't last very long.
Right.
no.
Nothing.
So the other action item, the third action item was on this goal was Kevin and I were a subcommittee, and we were going to be looking at, whether to, in view of the context statement and updating it about learning, getting more familiar with other, ethnic groups and cultures that came into Santa Cruz County in regards to the inventory.
Where are you right now?
I,
Are you goal number one, goal number
Yes.
two?
no, number one.
Okay.
Is it the bottom of page 2?
No, I think you're on goal number 2. That,
No,
Yeah, is it this one? The,
I think
here,
it's that one there.
let's look up here, that Donovan. It's goal there.
Oh, I see.
It's settler
The
community.
bottom of
Yeah.
page 2 of goal 1, okay.
Because, what I was, my concern was that the inventory, was mainly properties owned by wealthy white settlers. And we really didn't have, when we didn't know if there was any buildings left, as Marla was bringing up, the Filipino community, Luna looking more into the blacks. And we really don't know their history. We really don't know what they brought to Santa Cruz County as these different groups were coming in. And Kevin and I were going to talk to Frank Perry, Sandy Lyden, Carolyn Swift. But things kind of got away from us and we never went forward. And with the reduction of meetings, I kind of wanted to put it out there if, how possibly we could pursue this. Do we want to still pursue this? It seems like our work, we're getting an awful lot of things that we're focusing on, and I wasn't quite sure.
We are required to do training every year,
Mhm.
and we have not adequately conformed to that.
Well, I think on part of that, when in regards to training, was having some people who were more experienced in some of these communities come and talk to us and maybe, and point out, well, where did they settle? What did they do? Where did they go in the county? What did they contribute as kind of maybe a starting point to see if there was anything left of their communities? Or is it mainly information to go into a context statement? So I wasn't quite sure where to go from here.
So we're looking at ambiguity and bandwidth, right?
Exactly, very good, very succinct. We can certainly try and contact some of these people and talk to some of the historians, ask them who might be some people that would come as a training session.
I can add to this, and that is the CLG grant that we have is for the historic context statement. And right now, our historic context statement excludes, not by design, but just excludes the representation of the Black community. But through that CLG grant, we can open up our discussion. We can make inroads to get into the Filipino community and the Black community in Santa Cruz County and whoever else may be absent from our historic statement. So we can use the CLG grant as a springboard to address this to some extent. I'm not certain exactly the full extent, but it's a pathway.
Here's a thought. So you just, that was very good thinking. Perhaps in the execution of our working on our context statement, perhaps we could receive a training in protocol and research by the company that we select to do the context statement. If we were to pick a company like Dudek, for instance, who has an office here in Santa Cruz, they are high-level professionals. They even have archaeologists like Jacob Stone on their staff, and maybe they could provide a training to us that would be a component of their digging in on the context statement. And we could get a benefit of becoming more highly informed on that which we've just asked for the grant for, and use it as a documentation of training concurrently, which qualifies us to keep our jobs. How about that?
So,
That's good thinking. That's outstanding.
so is there an action item for any of us to do now, or is it waiting till we get the funds, or?
It's waiting until we get the funds. It's waiting until I write a report to the board saying ratify and approve our expenditure of $40,000 for this job.
There you go.
Then we do that. And you can probably expect some kind of a training to happen the first quarter of next year. If all goes well.
That would be especially good because the training would, so to speak, replace the meeting we're not having.
Yeah, good point.
Okay,
Very good. Okay, so have we completed goal number one?
yes. Moving on to goal number 2, which is cleanup of the historic resources inventory. And a lot of that dealt with the DPRs. And we did have some action items. So we can go through the action items from the last meeting. Or, I know I've been thinking about our discussion of the DPRs. And I've put together some questions I have. And I would like to open up and get the board's thoughts on maybe scheduling a special meeting to focus just on DPRs and look at the entire process, the forms, how we would handle different situations with the DPR. But how does the board feel? We can continue on and deal with 2 or 3 aspects of the DPR at each meeting? Or we can schedule.
What is it exactly is the issue with the existing DPR? Now, the DPRs have morphed over the years.
Right,
And what you see in our inventory is a collection of different
Right.
DPR forms.
yes,
And they're getting cleaner and more succinct, and they're getting better. And I'm assuming that there'll be another modification down the road sometime.
okay,
And I vaguely recall somebody, may have been Hibble, talking about, or may have been.
yeah, that is one of the action items on the goal.
Talking about how difficult it is to read what this is, what.
It was the heading. It was the heading on page 1 and you fixed it.
I did.
You approved the form, you sent it back to him. And that was what I was addressing this morning, of whether we would want to have copies of that new form here for people. So maybe you could forward everybody your modified form that you.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I put down.
Yeah, Matthew responded affirmatively. And at John's suggestion, Matthew modified the form. And it is better and it's easier for us to use.
Right. And I think we had the action item with the subcommittee of New House in Orlando, and I think this change satisfies that.
Yes, I believe that,
So
that
we can-
that occurred.
we can
So we accomplished
cross that
that
off,
goal.
yes.
Yes, we did.
Okay,
All right.
well, but
Good job.
what I think for me, looking at the entire process, for example, I'd like to know about how much information to put on the DPR form. A lot of them are missing a lot of history. What should be on the DPR forms and what shouldn't? And who would determine what history to include and what to omit?
I have to tell you that I've been reading, we've all been reading some of these DPR forms, and some of them are really lacking.
Mhm.
I don't know why. I guess maybe there was a limited amount of time and only one or two people working on the project.
Did they hire a consultant?
Yeah, and I was kind of taken back at how sparse the information was. I thought, well, this is kind of a useless DPR form. It all has to do with who's in charge of the project, who works here at the county,
Mhm.
whether it's me or Ann or predecessor, and how they interact with this consultant. And it's, the consultant should be doing a certain grade of analysis, and it should, and that grade shouldn't drop down below a certain threshold. And so it's up to the planner, I'm gonna say the county planner, to engage with that consultant until the consultant, you're not providing enough information. What about this, 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 and this? And I don't think that happened 30 years ago,
No.
or, yeah, 20 years ago, or whatever. So that's how I see the process. The state creates the DPR form. We can tweak it a little bit, which apparently I did, and forgot about it. As far as the inputs go, that's up to us, or that's up to the county planner in conjunction with the HRC. If we go through a brand new batch of evaluations of all of our historic resources, we open up all the DPR forms for all of our historic resources. We can say, that's not enough information on these houses or these structures. We need to account for X, Y, and Z for these.
So do we want to spend the time and, I mean, I've got 13 questions here that I want to go through, and that's why I suggested a special meeting. And I don't know what others, if they have questions or comments.
Have you seen the list of 13 questions?
I have,
No,
Why don't you
because,
share it with Barry a little bit?
so we're trying to determine whether we.
that's why I said, do we want to deal with 2 or 3 at each meeting and kind of over time work through? Or do we want to have a meeting and
So
try and do
these are
it?
all on DPR, yeah.
Yeah, everything's about DPR, so it's the process from the very beginning to the very end with all the information that's on a form.
Well, this takes me, thank you, Linda, this is excellent. This takes me to, a delicate area that is an important part of this commission, which we have not, been addressing with any kind of regularity. Each of us is to be aware of the historic properties in our district. And each of us is to be basically visiting each of those and looking at the DPR and adding anything we possibly can to it to contribute to the process of updating the inventory. It's kind of an ongoing process, so that we had talked earlier and we had agreed at an earlier time, about 2 years ago, that we would try to visit 3 properties each quarter, covering 12 properties a year, okay? And we would use the DPR form to take notes. So Matthew has improved the form, and I'd like to see this newest version of the headings just changed a little bit to make it easier to deal with. And if Matthew can send it to us, we'll all have the current version of the DPR to use, and we should each have an inventory of the properties in our own territory and create a routine to basically see 1 property a month. Now that's been on our planning, but pushed to a passive position, instead of being a recurring agenda item that shows up every time that we spend 10 minutes on. As I look at Linda's 13 questions about the DPR, and I look at the rest of this sheet of each of these goals, I believe that Linda is asking the question, and this has been kind of lingering since the last meeting. Should we call a special meeting for the purpose of an intensive review of our commission's goals? Is that the purpose of the meeting, Linda?
Meeting, I was asking if we should have a meeting to deal with DPRs.
Just DPRs.
Just DPRs.
Yeah, just DPRs. I think that dealing with just what I'm curious about in the process and how to do it and so on, I think that alone would be about 2 hours. So,
And we've recently learned, Matthew, did any of you attend the seminar last Thursday?
This is the Brown Act.
Yeah, the Brown Act seminar. Both
Yes.
Matthew and I watched. Did you see it, Linda?
yes,
Okay, so one of the things that came up in that meeting is that if we're having an ad hoc committee, which is our freest, least bound committee, that can only be 2 commissioners, and it cannot include the staffer. Remember that? If the staffer makes it into a quorum somehow. So we can't, only 2 of us could do this. If we were to do this, go through these 13 questions as an ad hoc committee, only 2 of us could participate.
okay,
That may not be enough input to do a good job. I'm supporting the idea of special.
no, okay,
Is that I don't think I think this is larger than what an ad hoc committee should do.
oh, absolutely,
That's, yes. So if it's larger than what an ad hoc committee should do, then it would be something that needs to be done in a formal meeting. And should we have a special meeting to that purpose?
What if I answered all this in writing and sent it to everybody? I'm looking at this, I don't think you need a meeting. Questions about, for example, should there be a review of each DPR's NR rating?
well, I already have some that have been marked up that they need to be changed.
Right.
And what is the process?
The process is that it has to come to the HRC and reevaluated and sanctified by a motion. After it goes through a review by a consultant.
Oh,
See, that's why it could be a meeting where we can discuss
We,
and ask questions.
yeah, if something deserves to be on, let's say, a NR2. Yes, NR2 versus an NR5. And maybe it just jumps up. We'd have to have a good reason for it. We have to have a full explanation for it. We have to have some basic understanding, and I don't have that skill set. I don't know about you guys. I don't have that skill set, and so that's why I'm saying you have to have a consultant look at it. And that's part of the inventory process. Now, keep in mind, we've lost buildings from fire, we've lost buildings from earthquakes. We have buildings that are rated, most of them are NR5. But some of them should perhaps be bumped up to an NR5, to an NR4 or 3. And maybe
Okay,
this
that's-
sprinkle would be an NR1. NR1 is Redmond House. NR1 is Aptos Bayview Hotel.
No, it's the other way around. 1 is low, 5 is high.
No, it's not.
I think it is.
I have to go back and look, but
No,
I
it's
just
one.
remember that there are 5 levels. But I have to go back to the.
There's six
Yeah.
levels.
Okay.
6 is that it's tepid quality.
Yeah, there's some where it's like
Number 1 is National Register.
registered.
Yeah. Should additional information be included, such as newspaper articles, brochures, postcards, et cetera? Absolutely. Every house, well, that's another thing. It's money, time, and a consultant. A consultant, in other words, translates to money and time. To do that, to dig down on each one of these houses or each one of our inventory units.
But if we already have some of that already, and see, and I'm curious, how is that stored here? Do you keep them in just paper files in a metal cabinet? How are?
That's right. We have 3-ring binders that cover all of our planning areas.
Mhm.
And some planning areas have a few inventory items, and some other planning areas have tens of inventory items. We've taken all of that and put it on our GIS system.
Okay,
We haven't come out with it yet, meaning we haven't gone to the public with it. It's an internal copy right now, and it's going to be vetted over the next few days. We had an opportunity a couple of weeks ago, but we lost out on vetting it internally, so we're trying it again. Who should determine what history to include and what to omit?
Mhm.
That's what we hired all these consultants for. Sheila, Bonnie, who are the other names associated?
I
with
just
DPR?
know,
I don't
it was
know.
mainly Bonnie Bamber,
I have no
was
contact
the-
with any of these people.
the name on most of them.
Right. And those were the ones I found to be lacking in detail.
Yeah, I think she did the whole county,
Yeah.
did it all together because the date's the same on every single DPR.
Right.
So I think then she, when she had the whole thing
That was
done.
probably the date
That's when
that you should submit them. That was
Yeah.
Probably the date you said.
And that
Exactly.
was 1980.
89. And then she came back on some of them to reassess in
Or
94.
subsequent to that, there's some other consultants who came in 2004 and 2009, but the bulk of it is.
Yeah.
So that was before the commission structure. So there was no HRC in the 80s. The HRC was formed in 94 when we put in the 41
There
commission.
was some organization before the HRC,
I don't know.
a trust or something, but
Didn't we circulate a DPR form for our outing in North County at the old ranch house? The
Well,
Potter House,
the Porter House.
so the Porter House.
Porter Ranch. That's in Monterey County, so the DPR would have been a Monterey.
Right, and that's like 6 pages long. And then there was another one done here, since I've been here, for Beachgate Road or something like that for.
Yes.
House.
Yes.
And that was another very well done, about
Mhm.
6 pages long.
mhm,
As opposed to what Bonnie did, of course, you just explained it all to me now. The reason that those inventories are so brief is because she had this much stuff she had to deal with. Whereas these other examples are a one-off. Just one consultant doing a PPR form for one property,
mhm.
and it's easy to dig down deep.
Yeah. So what I can do, since it sounds like a special meeting is off the table, we can,
I think a special meeting is gonna be, harder to do than it used to be.
okay, well, we can just end up taking some of these and do them 2 or 3 at a time, because I need to be writing and documenting everything you're telling me.
No, you don't.
Can we do this?
I'm gonna respond.
I was gonna say, can you respond to that, send it out to the group? We have to be, we can't turn it into a conversation because of the Brown Act. So we'll just read your answers.
Yeah.
We'll come to the next meeting and then we'll start knocking them out a few at a time. At least this way the ball gets rolling and then we can get some progress. And if we're still
Okay.
just arms in the air, then maybe we can discuss having a special
Yeah,
meeting.
and a lot of these can be answered by just interpreting the code. Not a lot of them, but some of them.
That would be good, because I don't go through the code.
Right.
All right, well, then to get back to this one then, so the next item under this
Where are we now? Goal two,
goal 2,
Yeah.
second
page 2,
comment,
page 1. Well, page
So-
2.
page 2, under July meeting.
Board will work with staff and use of volunteers.
Yes, so that would require training. And again, it's like, we need the training to be able to train the people, the volunteers to work with us. And, I know Lisa went up to San Francisco, and the Historical Society there did a training and sent people out to take pictures, and she went up and went through the training.
Oh,
So I can have her explain to me what it is to do. But I don't know about the board, about the commission here.
So what you're describing then is to update photographs associated with a particular property, right? At this point.
Well, with all of them, because we want to know what the current condition is of the
So-
properties.
So right off the bat, what I see is you can take a photograph of a house from the public viewpoint. But that might be very limiting, especially if there's a lot of vegetation intervening.
It's- yeah.
between Where you're standing, where the house is, or where the building is.
And permission to be on the property and.
And that's the next step. If you're not able to take a photograph of the building because it's obscured by vegetation, okay, now you need to contact the property owner, say,
Mhm.
may we take a photograph of your house from, if you're gonna reach out like that, say, we'd like to take photographs from all 4,
Mhm.
5 or 6 vantage points within the property. And they may say, go to hell, and they might say, please do it.
Yeah,
Well, but let's also consider this. In contacting the owner of the property, we're going to find a huge amount of obsolescence and variation. Most of these DPRs were done before people had cell phones. Telephone numbers are gonna be all wrong. They're
oh yeah,
obsolete.
the dates, they've been sold.
They've been sold, purchased.
We wouldn't be going by. Are you implying we're gonna take information off the DPR form?
Well, I'm
Well,
supposed to
that's
find
the
out.
first, that's the
No, we
first
can't,
step.
yeah, there's no, because there's no phone numbers. It's just, I don't think, it's just an address of the
Mhm.
house, and then there's a person's name at that time that owned it. What we would have to do is go to capture the APN, go to our assessor's office.
Yeah, you can
and
do that
pull up that
online.
information,
Yeah.
And then get a mailing address, and I think the best way to start it would be to write a letter saying, you'd like to get permission to, and here's our telephone number.
So, hold on. This is leading me to think about something here. We have, I think, am I correct, about 340 properties? 340 historic properties?
No, more like 400 or something.
Okay. It seems as though there's a project unto itself to create a list of the historic designated properties, who owns them, and what their contact information is, and that list doesn't exist. And without that list,
It does exist, really, and this is the whole GIS program that we've been involved with for almost a year.
cool.
Actually, the actual work effort went over a period of about a month and a half to 2 months.
Last year,
This year,
with the people that you've never worked with.
when I was sitting here in December.
Yeah.
I was talking to Fernanda, who's sitting right here. She was talking to you guys, like, yeah, I can get this done in a couple of months. Well, reality set in, there was just this huge workload she had to deal with. And the can got kicked down the road, rightly so. And she had other fires she had to put out. And then we pick up a new staff person, Donovan. Fernanda and Donovan. Donovan's controlling this meeting electronically. He went to work on the digitizing with some help from some other
And
staff.
that's completed now?
And that is 98% completed. And we can access immediately the address of the current owner through that program.
Could we collate that by district and send it, each person there?
I don't know how we would do it by district. Maybe the county assessor's office. Well, I know that GIS, well, I know the digitized version of our inventory reflects that planning area.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know if that planning area fits in.
Yeah, the planning areas don't conform to the voting districts.
Something like that.
Yeah, but they're close.
They should be. And maybe it's an extra work effort, part of the GIS to throw that in there.
Because I've tried, I've gotten the APNs off the DPRs and gone to the GIS, and I still don't get
Yeah.
the correct current,
We're this far from going public with our GIS system.
okay. Because that was also one of my concerns, is we give you the current, owner and all of that info, and how does that get relayed, so someone can go in, look at the DPR and find that? And Annie always said, oh, well, it's like a database, you get this here and this here and this here. So the planning department can pull it together. And it's like, well, but me, as out there, I can't.
Staff is gonna help you through that process.
Okay, so for volunteers though, we kind of said, well, we could get high school students, we could get college students. That still is kind of open on what kind of volunteers. Okay, so that is still open. Let's see. So, and the next one had to do with yours about the DPR form, and you've taken care of that.
Yes, we're done. Yeah.
Okay. And you were going to email a copy of the new form. And then, you were gonna look on what the process was to delist a property.
Yeah. I know the process, we talked about it, and, our minute from the last meeting identified. Yeah.
Was it a step-by-step process?
Reference code section 1642060B1A.
Okay, so,
Old business, Redmond House. Yeah, so what is it that you want to know? I know what we need to do. I have the path clearly in mind.
okay, so we would just give you the name, like the Alba School, and then you go and do it?
To do list,
Yes.
I would what I want to do is collect a bunch of properties and do a bunch at once. I don't want to do one at a time.
Okay, but that's the point, is that there's nothing we have to do, just give you the name?
Yeah.
Okay,
And you'll initialize the delisting process,
Initiate it.
initiate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't need to review the individual properties as a commission and vote on each? I mean,
No.
it's probably pretty obvious if a
I will
building is
bring you,
burned
I'll bring you a
down.
batch of buildings that no longer exist
Yeah,
because they've been burnt down or the earthquake destroyed them.
Yeah.
Or there's the Redmond House, as an example.
now what about delisting from the National Register?
That's, it's a different step. I think that has to go through, Sacramento. I don't know that exercise.
Okay, so this would be, so delist.
It's gonna be a little bit more complicated or challenging to take a NR1 off the list. But
Okay.
no one's gonna argue.
Mhm.
And those who would argue would have to cough up $5 million so we can rebuild the place.
Okay, well, that goes through the comments and action items I had for that goal. So goal 2 is done.
Very good.
Goal 3A, demolition and partial demolition.
to go into the July 8th meeting?
Yes. Yes, so from that one,
Well, why don't I just tell you what's going on with it right now?
okay, with the ordinances,
Yeah, with ordinance for demolition by neglect. Actually, it'll be demolition / demolition by neglect.
oh, because that's 3B. 3B is demolition by neglect. This is demolition and partial demolition.
Oh, okay. Right now, I'm just working on demolition by neglect.
Okay, so this will continue to the April meeting? And if you have something to report, you don't, otherwise we'll
Right,
just
right.
keep moving.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so demolition by neglect 3B.
Yeah, that one I can update you on. I have,
Where is 3B?
B, doesn't,
B,
well,
Yeah, where?
it's a separate goal.
It's a single sheet, nothing on the back.
and it comes after, hang on now, wait for it. It comes after 3A.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. That's brilliant.
It's,
My
yeah, it's hard
compliments,
to
everyone.
keep it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Donovan.
So demolition by neglect, I've initiated my work on it, and you have to understand that HRC needs to understand that my HRC work is not all that I do, I do a bunch of other stuff.
What?
And right now, the CDID's priority is to get the rezoning done to meet the requirements of Housing and Community Development Department.
Right.
If we don't move that whole process forward and meet deadlines, then the county subjects itself to builder's remedy. I don't know if you know what that is. I should go into detail on that later. We subject ourselves to builder's remedy and potentially loss of grant funding for housing projects, infrastructure projects. And the county is absolutely not going to take any risk in that regard. So HRC takes a back seat when these things pop up. So good news is that I've made some inroads. I'm not going to share it with you, but I've got script, meaning
Okay, writing,
Like-
not script is money.
Yeah, right, like a template, like a template or a framework.
Yeah, I've written parts of what I need to write. And then I slammed on the brakes and went to work on another project. And I can't even give you a date certain about when it's gonna happen. I'm comfortable in saying it'll happen in 2025.
Okay, well, we'll just ask for status at the
Yeah.
April meeting.
Yeah,
Well, the county needs this tool.
I know.
It's a tool that doesn't exist, that the county needs to clean up more than just historic buildings.
Right, yeah, and I'm talking about the Mills Act, excuse me, the demolition by neglect.
Yes, demolition by neglect, right.
Okay, moving on to number 4. This is one of these where there's been no activity on it for quite some time. It's continuing our watch list maintenance.
Oh,
And we have blank forms, so if there's a property that you think should be on the inventory, but we haven't had the funds to be able to get a consultant to do the, the research on it.
Is the watch list aimed at adding something to the list, or is it something that would also take something off the list?
No, I don't think
about adding.
adding to the list. And the idea is that if somebody who owns that property comes in and wants to do a major change to it, it sets a red flag at planning and says, well, wait a minute,
Sure.
we need to let the HRC know that you're planning to do this. I think we were waiting because, again, we didn't have the money to be updating the inventory, doing all the cleanup and all these kinds of things. So we keep it on here
Are we-
till we get acting on it again. But there are, Carolyn, and we do have properties on the watch list sitting and planning. So I guess if you have something, fill out a form, turn it in.
So where's this form?
It got emailed out, but that was like maybe
Where's the
last
what?
year or
The
more.
form.
The watch list form.
Okay, I can look for it again. I just don't remember it.
Those properties that Kevin and I reviewed in Aptos that were suggested by Carolyn, did they go, are they now on the watch list?
We didn't fill out any forms for them, so I mean,
Yeah.
I think that would probably be the next step is to review. And where do we review what's currently on the watch list? Where do we find that list?
I don't know, because they just got, well, Annie sent out a list. So, but that was a while back.
Can you?
Let me see.
search for it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, so that's a maintenance issue.
yeah, it's just until we could get the money and a consultant to look at these watch list properties for possible adding to the inventory.
So it looks like we do have action on this finally. We just
Yeah,
review the watch list and update.
What's on the, yeah, review it,
Update it,
to see
yeah.
what's on it. Okay.
Oh, okay, hold on. Attached is a blank template to use for recommending properties to the watch list.
What date?
Annie sent that on November 15th, 2021.
yeah, it's been a while.
I think that was
that to me?
before I got.
I'm going to do that right now.
Might even be before me, maybe that's on me. I don't know.
You have to leave Emily at 12:40? Okay.
All right,
I'm in the same boat. if not earlier.
we're,
But before we start using that blank form, we need to see what's currently on the watch list, because let's not double the work.
oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And you can, Carolyn's put in several, like
I'm
8 or
sure.
10, and so you can see what she put in as far as information.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she gave us a list of like
Senior
15, no,
Thank you.
after she was off the commission. Her work just never stops. It's amazing.
So the next one is goal number 5, the Mills program. And from the July meeting,
The Mills Act.
so
program.
is that what I wrote down?
You just wrote Mills.
Program implementation.
Yeah.
So I'll change that. There we go.
Um,
So I know you were looking into it.
Yeah, so I've made headway with that as well. I've written up a substantial amount. But just like the other demolition by neglect, I had to put the brakes on and shift my time to housing element work.
So you've researched and documented the process or what our county would need to do?
And there's different ways, different counties, different various jurisdictions approach it differently. Some jurisdictions have no limitation. They say, well, we'll just take as many of these as we want or can absorb in our property tax structure. Some agencies, Santa Cruz County don't have anything. And so it's gonna be interesting to see how we can move forward.
So put a cap on how many, and you have to,
You can put a cap on how many total, and you can put a cap on how much property tax discount you get.
right,
There's various approaches with that. For example, there might be a house ranked at NR3, and I forget exactly what that means, but NR3. And so maybe they want a Mills Act with their jurisdiction, and the jurisdiction says, okay, you're an NR3, you get this much property tax relief. But the NR1 gets more property tax relief because it's National Register and it's a much more substantial building like the Bayview Hotel, which means a lot of maintenance. All that wood detail is a maintenance nightmare. And it's expensive. That's ultimately what I'm getting at. It's very expensive to take care of buildings like that. And can you imagine what it would cost if the Redmond House were in ideal condition and with all the cornices and the eaves and all that detail? Every year, there's gonna be some major work done.
about $100,000 or more to just maintain the building.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the Mills Act gives
property owner a property tax relief.
Yeah,
But they have to follow some rules, protocols.
Yeah.
And for example, they have to keep all the receipts for the work they've done on the historic structure that's subject to the Mills Act. Report it once a year to the planner in charge of that program at the county or the city. And then from there, it gets kicked into the county assessor's office and they say, okay, another year, they don't pay any property tax, or they only pay 50% of property tax, or whatever the formula is that the jurisdiction approves.
now does the Mills Act cover both inside and outside?
It, definitely the outside. It could.
Okay, just curious.
Uh,
Okay,
I think it would in the case of a building like the Aptos Baby Hotel.
Yes.
Because the public is going in and out.
Mm.
Whereas if it's a single family dwelling,
mhm,
where the public sees the outside only.
Mm.
So
okay,
I'm hesitant, in other words, I'm hesitant to tell you that the inside is covered by the Mills Act,
okay.
unless it's a public access building.
I have a question about the baby, but I'm gonna let us get through the goals first before we get off topic.
We only got two more.
Okay.
Goal number 6 is to update and maintain the HRC website.
We've done that.
Yes, we have.
So, so Kevin and Barry were going to go back and look at that. We reactivated the subcommittee and you were gonna make a report. And so your report is you did go through the HRC.
Oh, well, we can't make, there are improvements to the site that have been accomplished in the last 6 months. Kevin and I have not met on this, so I don't want to misrepresent that.
Right.
So,
Do you want to move it till April?
I think so.
Mhm.
Let's have a conversation.
Are there further changes planned between now and then?
Before you leave, I'm gonna have one of these printed out for you, just sign and date, just like.
Matthew, are there further changes to the website that are planned?
I
Or have we already accomplished
don't
most of
know.
it?
I think we're probably 90% there.
Okay, well then you and I can meet at any time to
And then
to
we
discuss
can
it.
each drill down,
Yeah,
take notes, compare, and report.
perfect. Let's do that sooner than later, because these
Yeah,
things tend to
yeah,
get forgotten about the longer we wait.
Yeah.
Okay, then goal 11 is about the CLG grant, and you reported on that earlier, so
Right.
I'll pick up the information from earlier in the agenda and put it on here.
Matthew, does that grant come around every year?
Yes.
Do you have to use the money in the course of the year for
No.
banking?
We use it through, our last invoice, I think, had to go in May 2026.
Cool.
And all the work has to be finished. Or maybe it's April that it goes, the final invoice goes in, and then the work has to be finished in May 2026.
Right. So they're giving us,
I have some breathing space,
yeah, a year and a half.
but there's a lot of work associated with this stuff.
Yeah.
I even haven't written a scope of work for it, but I've written a CLG scope of work. But I haven't written a scope of work for a consultant. Understood that there's some nuances.
Okay, then I'm done with goals.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
So, and we did not have any new goals we were establishing, right?
Correct. I think we'll
Okay.
determine that we should make progress on our current ones before adding new challenges. Very good. Thank you very much for that, Linda. Okay.
Sign there and date there with my pen.
Commissioner presentations and informal items. I would like to go back to an earlier item, and that's a letter that was item 4 from Becky Steinbruner. And if you'll turn over to the opposite side that we were looking at and look at the letter from September 29th, Becky had invited me to attend an event at Aptos Village Park, which was sponsored by the Cabrillo Lions. And we recently worked with the Cabrillo Lions to recognize and appreciate their monument their World War I monument on Freedom Boulevard. And we gave them the information that if they were to fill out a DPR and wanted to invest the money, that when that DPR came to the HRC, that we would look at it favorably because it's a little monument to World War I. It's very carefully maintained and gardened and is completely inoffensive, completely in the spirit. So because of that earlier contact regarding Cabrillo Lions, Becky reached out to invite me to the event, which was dedicating the clubhouse. And I sent her back a response saying I tried to make it, and I made it. And I attended the clubhouse inauguration, including the band that they had playing. I haven't heard a student band in many years. It was fun. And lo and behold, some guy walked up to me and said, I think he was maybe a little bored, and it turned out that it was Jimmy Panetta. And I had a 10-minute conversation. So it was a nice day. It was nice to be there. We supported our constituency and had a presence at a park building dedication. So I'm supposed to disclose that, and I did. Do we have any commission staff update for today? As a separate item, it's always listed here, Historic Resources Commission staff update.
Well, can we go back to number 10?
Oh, sure.
For informational items, I guess this would probably fall under that, and it's also going to lead me to my question about the Bayview Hotel that I alluded to. So for informational items, the Bayview Hotel has been listed for sale. Once again, it has been in the past and it has never been sold. The current, well, we'll just say it's never been sold in recent times, but it's back on the market and there is an open house tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday is in the evening, so if anyone is interested in going to see this historic, beautiful, well, I should say one-time beautiful building.
You said tomorrow during the day and Wednesday during the evening?
Tomorrow, 10:30 to noon. Wednesday, 5:30 to 7 p.m.
Good.
And then Thursday, 12:30 to 3 p.m.
Asking price?
Whoever goes, take
Three.
photographs.
3.9 million is what it's listed for, which, you know, in the scheme of things, it's like, I remember a few years back, I believe she was asking like 6 or 7 million. And, you know, looking at same person, same
Yeah,
owner.
Christina.
Christina Locke is her name. Her husband has passed away the past several
Oh,
years.
really?
And so, yeah, the last time it was listed is when he was still alive. I think she's just ready to move on. She has had some issues with the county, with all the development that's going on, the closing of the rail right in front of it's just been one thing after another. I think she's finally ready to move on and sell the place. So the first, being an informational item, is that it's a great opportunity to see this hotel that has been, look, it's the Bayview Hotel. It hasn't been a hotel for many years.
Right.
Really, it has not been.
What
has it been?
Long-term rental for her friends, and
Rental.
it's a party house. It's a party house.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, her daughters used to throw raves in the abandoned kitchen area. And it's just been, I drive by it every single day. It's right next to my house. And every morning when I drive past it, I thank my stars that it hasn't burnt down, because the last time I was in it, I wandered upstairs and it is a hoarder's paradise. There's junk lining the walls all the way up to the ceilings. It's not maintained. It's not well taken care of.
Half broken chairs and stuff like that.
It's in horrible state last time I was in there, which was quite a few
So they're
years
gonna have
ago.
an open house without that stuff or with that stuff?
Here's your
Yeah.
chance to
Yeah.
find that.
I'm gonna go to find the answer to that.
Which one are you going to?
Probably not tomorrow. I have to work, so it's probably gonna be on, what would that be, Wednesday evening.
Okay.
Yeah, and Dave Hopkins, who accompanied us to the Porter Ranch, he's gonna be there as well. He sent me the invite as
Well, I've
well.
gotten 2 inquiries from 2 separate real estate agents. The first one
wanted to know if they could take the dining room and the kitchen and convert it into renting rooms or hotel rooms. I
Yeah.
said, well, it's a National Register hotel. No.
Yeah.
So that person went away. And then I get another call from another real estate agent who says, I'm representing somebody who's interested in this property. What could be done on the property? And I said, well, I don't know what could be done on that property. But you're aware that it's National Register, NR1, blah, blah, blah. But here's other staff person here at the county who knows what you can do with the property. So we'll put them together. And basically what they can do is can take the Bayview Hotel and make it a Bayview Hotel.
Yeah.
And then the back area is, how big is the property? No, it's not big.
No, I mean, it's not huge.
An acre?
There was a playground in the back, wasn't there?
There's a garden, it's a garden. It's like an open garden.
The question that the real estate agent had was, could we build additional rooms in the backyard? I said, I don't know. Here's our staff person in the county planning department.
Yeah.
So I did my job. It's out of my hands and
Yeah.
still for sale.
Yeah, yeah.
$3.8 million is too much because the amount of money it's gonna take to get this thing out of the
Yeah.
hole.
It's half painted. I mean, it's painted, one half of the building's painted one color, the other half is painted the other color. So, I mean, that kind of has led me to my questions of, okay, what do we need to look for when it's purchased by a new owner? Is this something that we need to, introduce ourselves and say, hey, if you are planning on doing any, look, I know it's their responsibility to go through the planning department and everything like that, but would it be beneficial to, if it sells, to introduce myself and say, if you need any advice on what you can and can't do, we're happy to help you. And then secondly, what if they do stuff like the painting of this building? Do they need our permission for the paint as long as it's not obscene? I mean,
Well,
No,
hold
like-
on. Do they need a permit? This is all permit relevant.
okay.
Because a permit brings them to the CDID.
Mhm.
If the CDID is functioning properly, they bring that permit to us, don't approve it, bring it to us to get an opinion.
I don't think the painting issue is gonna come to us.
Right.
I think what's gonna come to us, well, I could come to us is the Mills Act.
Mhm.
That would be ideal for the Bayview Hotel.
Yeah.
So 3.9. So building additional rooms would obviously be a permitted issue. Painting the building is not.
But see, here's the.
If they want to paint it all white, because it's cheaper,
Yeah,
as long as it cures the exterior of the building from further deterioration.
yeah,
See, the building, if anything, in my opinion, the building, if anything, currently reflects a higher potential than it ever has, because now phase 2 of the building of the housing in Aptos Village is well underway, and you can see the buildings that are behind it, which is nothing but a customer base to fill that as a restaurant 24/7.
Mhm.
It could be a 24-hour day restaurant.
Yeah.
Very well.
But at
Yeah.
3.9 million, it's gonna sit there empty for another few years.
It's gonna probably need a couple million.
all right,
Without it.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, I know that,
So if somebody
We don't know
bought
what
it,
it's
if somebody bought it for 2.5, they'd probably have to put 2 or 2.5 into it.
Mhm.
They were talking about a $5 million investment here,
yeah. And so we'll find out through the permitting.
which is merely, 2 modest residential homes in Santa Cruz County right now.
Mhm.
I mean, in terms of, it's not worth 3.9, but for something that size in that location, it sure is worth 3.9,
it can
but
be.
not because of the building.
Right,
It's because of the location.
The condition of the building is not gonna make it a 3.9.
yeah,
If anything, the condition of the building is gonna hold back that property from being sold.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not an inspector, but I mean, I do see, I see it quite often. And, for something that was built in 1878 compared to other building, I mean, the amount of, I'm surprised it's not in worse shape, let's just put it that way. from the exterior, it still looks pretty damn solid, pretty sturdy. I don't see anything
Yeah,
of
but how
concern
close
from
did you
the,
get to that building?
I walk by it pretty closely every day. There's a coffee shop right next to it.
Yeah.
So I look at it quite often. Inside, I haven't seen in several years. That's my biggest concern is what's happening on the inside.
I used to, I dined there. It was a very good restaurant 30 years ago. The two guys from Los Gatos that went in there.
Yeah.
And in fact,
The
one
veranda, I believe is what it was.
was it
Was it the veranda?
the veranda?
Mhm.
And weren't they also renting two of the rooms? I think I stayed there once.
Possible. Yeah. I mean, you used to be able to stay there.
Late 80s or early 90s.
You used to be able to stay there. Mhm. I think she still markets it as a hotel, but
Yeah, the ad says, oh, yeah, it's several rooms with some with ensuite.
yeah.
And then imagine what the plumbing is like.
Oh, it's shared bathroom.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
I mean, old, you know, not centuries old, but decades old.
Okay,
So I had something.
yes, David.
So I just wanted to make a quick update on the Alba School.
Excellent.
The SLV School District published in the press banner a resolution authorizing a quitclaim deed to the Alba Recreation and Park District, which is a special district. So because the school district, SLV United School District, and the Alba Park and Recreation and Park, they were able to just transfer the deed and no money needed to be exchanged. So,
I went from school district to the park.
Yes.
to Alba Recreation and Park District. And then they formed a nonprofit, Friends of the Alba Schoolhouse. They applied and got a grant from the California State Parks. So I did not get the amount, but they did receive the grant, and they're considering making it into a park there, since you saw the picture, it's all gone, it's just flat dirt. So it looks like something they won't be rebuilding the school.
Was the grant for the purpose of, partially for the purpose of some signage to recognize that this was the location of the?
I don't know, I wasn't involved in any of it, just that they were just thrilled, and then they have $20,000 that the Friends had fundraised to help with rebuilding the school, if the school district did that. But I did get this, and it is a Images of America history book of the Alba School.
Oh,
So there is,
delightful.
I got one for each of you.
Oh, that was
Oh, that's
thoughtful of
delightful.
you. Thank you.
And so and this is for
I used to
either
work with
Fernando
Really?
Yeah.
or
With,
Donovan.
with my size font.
She,
That's
She goes by
my
Lucia.
size font.
Okay.
Yes, Silvery Bob. Open the middle of the book, wait till you see it.
Oh, I see it.
It's perfect. Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much. This is great.
but once they,
Right.
decide what they're gonna do and have something, then probably sometime next year, I'll let you know what's going on.
Thank you, Linda. Linda, were these, personal expense, Steve?
No, Lucia gave them to
How
me
nice that is.
to pass on to all of you.
Would you kindly thank her on our
Yes.
behalf?
Oh,
As
absolutely.
chairman, I would like to thank her. Maybe you could, forward her contact information. I'd love to send her a note of thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be a good appreciation. to you.
Yeah, there's only like 5 special districts in the county,
I know.
and they are the smallest.
Yeah, this is delightful.
Love these books.
So, we're closing up the meeting.
Okay, we have,
Oh, you have something else?
no, we're just at the, item 13 is a review of items for future agendas. We have actively been doing that throughout the meeting, so I do not think we have to address it as a separate issue today. And so with that, I would like to call for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
I
Unanimously adjourned. Thank you, friends.
Emily, give me 3 minutes to get that paperwork. Can we adjourn at 12:23?
Yep, I had a last
Okay.
meeting, and I have one item of next discussion.
Yeah, do our best.
How did we start late and end early?
Streamline.
That's efficiency right there.
Yeah.
Well, Matthew was extremely well prepared today,
Yeah.
and Matthew's accomplishments were huge, but the words used to describe them did not need to be. So he helped us write move. I thought we were gonna get tangled up in his part of the agenda.
Right.
Ah,
Well, it's
And
wonderful
that
to see
may have
everybody
been
again.
my last meeting as chair.